Hey everyone, so I was going to do a video today, but I actually cast one of the biggest European tournaments yesterday called Giant Slayer, and I wanted to kind of break down one of the games in the final because it was really interesting and actually had a really cool build in it that I hadn't really seen before. There was another game that I also want to do at some point this week where they played Sona Janna bot lane. Yeah, I know, right? Sona Janna bot lane, and it worked really well. But I want to focus on this one because this is DARIUS, right? And most of you would expect DARIUS to be at least a little damage orientated, like Black Cleaver at least, or Triforce at least, but no. The top laner from Na'Vi, called Garen, funnily enough, it's really annoying to have to refer to Garen playing DARIUS, but he played full tank DARIUS. I'm going to put the build on your screen right now so you can see what it looked like towards the end. He didn't manage to end the full build, but I'll want to do some math breakdown of kind of like this build versus some other tank Darius builds before we get into this game, because I thought it would be interesting. I know math's boring, but it's kind of what my brand is about, like analyzing builds and using maths to do it. So I'm going to put in some mathematical sort of breakdowns on the screen now. Before we do though, thanks to G2A for sponsoring the channel. Reference link in the description below. And also, if you want to get involved in the giveaway in May, all you need to do is like, comment, and subscribe on any video that you see in May, including this one. So if you throw a comment on this video, you make sure you like and you subscribe to the channel. You'll have a chance at winning one of 10 skins at the end of May. Right, let's do some math breakdown of the build before we actually get into the game. Okay, so I used to do this a lot for Vainglory, and I really like doing it, so I wanted to extend this to some of the videos that I'm doing in Wildrift. I want to prove why the build that Garen went for actually makes sense if you're looking for mixed damage effective HP. Now, I'm going to explain a couple things before we get into the real meat of this, but essentially, effective HP is the HP that you have versus a certain type of damage, because obviously magic resist and armor provide you with damage reduction. So therefore, damage reduction percentage is going to increase your effective HP. We're going to take Darius at base health, at base level 11. So his base health, armor, and magic resist at level 11 are 1,780 HP, 92 armor, and 53 magic resist respectively. We're going to take 3 separate 2-item builds to talk a little bit about what they offer you in terms of mixed damage resistances. Now, the builds that I'm going to take are Sunfire Cape plus Thornmail, Sunfire Cape plus Force of Nature, and then the build that we saw Garen go for, which was Thornmail plus Force of Nature. Now, the reason I chose Sunfire Cape is that it's the standard first item for most tanks. In this particular example, we are not going to talk about the benefits of Sunfire Cape and the extra damage in an area that it does provide you. We're talking purely about how tanky these items end up making you. So let's talk a little bit about the first item build, which is Sunfire Cape plus Thornmail. It gives you 2,480 HP at level 11 Darius. It gives you 167 armor, 53 magic resist, because you get no extra magic resist from this build. Your effective HP versus physical damage is 6,621. So if someone is attacking you with physical damage, it will feel like you have 6,000 HP rather than just your 2,400. Versus magic damage, you're going to have an effective HP of 3,794. Let's take a look at our next item build, which is the Sunfire Cape plus Force of Nature. As one would expect, you've got 5,000, slightly lower effective HP because you haven't built any extra armor. One thing that is interesting to note though, guys, is that you do get a lot more base armor in general than base magic resist. So if you are worried about, defending against physical damage, but there are also lots of magic damage threats, just remember that most champions get a higher armor scaling in general than magic resist scaling. So your effective HP verse is physical damage is 5,000. Versus magic damage, it obviously scales with Force of Nature, but it can be anywhere between 5,200 at 0 stacks and up to 6,000 at full stacks of Force of Nature. Then we look at our final item build, which is the one that Garen went for, which is Thornmail plus Force of Nature. You get a little bit of HP from both of these items, so you're up to 2,330 HP. You've got 167 armor, and of course your magic resist scales depending on how many Force of Nature stacks you've got. So your effective HP versus physical damage is 6,221. And versus magic, it scales from anywhere between 4,613 and 5,084. So you get a decent amount of HP versus both types of damage profiles. However, we want to have a look at the total mixed damage resistance that you can get. So I'm going to add the effective HPs of both these together to give you a total mixed effective HP. That's not a good way, really, of assessing your total HP value, but it's a good way of assessing the total ceiling of your HP value. So your total mixed effective HP with Sunfire Cape and Thornmail is 10,415. Your total effective mixed HP with Force of Nature and Sunfire is 10,257, but can scale up to 11,046, obviously depending on the type of damage that you're facing. And your total mixed effective HP with the Thornmail and Force of Nature build is 10,834, scaling all the way up to 11,305. So the effective HP that you can actually get versus a heavy mixed damage team is actually higher with Thornmail and Force of Nature, as you can see here. Now, obviously, this is not an absolutely cast iron way of assessing the quality of these builds, because really the damage that you're receiving depends on a lot of factors, and it depends on the type of champions that you're facing, how consistently you're having damage applied. But total mixed effective HP is a good way of just comparing the builds. Now, obviously, we aren't comparing the individual passives like the Sunfire Cape passive. I stated that before, but I just want to show mathematically that the Force of Nature and Thornmail build with no direct, I would say, dedicated health items like the Sunfire Cape is actually an effective way to be a tank, especially on Darius, that we're going to see in this game. And speaking of this game, let's jump into it. Okay, let's start talking about this game, because Na'Vi were in the final game of the series here. They were 2-0 up already, and they were in a really good spot as a team. Like, they'd obviously been playing super well. In terms of composition, I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. We have a Seraphine, a Diana, Darius combo. So, like, in fact, actually, do you know what? Let's scrap it. Seraphine Diana is a good enough combo in its own right. Like, you have the Seraphine ultimate into the Diana ultimate. That's a really good wombo combo. I talked to Ghost after the game, and the reason Ghost really likes Vi is because he can peel really effectively for his AD carry. So let's say that Rengar jumps out. Let's say that Pantheon jumps out. You can just Vi-ult them, and then Ezreal can escape pretty much 99% of the time. Mumu has been a really big carry for Na'Vi. Like, he is absolutely insane at the game. And so, like, a lot of the team plays specifically around Mumu. But that's why we see Garen do these really weird Darius builds. Like, this is not a Darius build that I've seen. And what I would say about this Darius build is it's not a build that I would expect to have, like, insane value in solo queue. Ghost flashed the wrong way there. That was a little awkward. Doom ends up getting the kill. Yeah, that was just an awkward flash. The wrong way for Ghost in that scenario. Good early capitalization. Good roam down towards this River Scuttler to attempt to put some pressure down. Doom playing Rengar actually had a really good performance all tournament. So we hadn't seen many good Rengars, if I'm honest with you, in this tournament in its entirety. But Doom actually played a really insanely good Rengar, and he really proved that Rengar is a viable competitive champion as well. So obviously, I'm going to keep an eye on Garen's build as we go. This video is going to be talking about the game holistically, but I also do want to focus a lot on Garen and this build, because if you look at the type of damage that he's facing, he's going up against physical, magic. So he is going up against a good set of mixed damage. I would say the majority of the damage is going to come from both the Xayah and the Rengar. Probably a little bit from the Pantheon in the laning phase as well, which is why he's prioritizing the armor first. It's very likely why you'll see him go for Thornmail first as that first item, because it's very likely that by the time that the first dragon fight comes around, or by the time that the first fight that Darius is going to be involved in comes around, he has to be more concerned about the physical damage. So this was relatively good from Tribe. The reason I didn't super like it is they didn't exactly have a minion wave. The backup plan for Tribe would have been, cool, we have a stacked minion wave, we use the Pantheon ultimate, and then we end up getting first turret of the game. That would have been a really good backup plan for them. All right, so here we go. We have a teleport prioritized for Garen. This struck me as weird. I guess he did it to get into the fight, but he had absolutely no damage and no resistances. So it was like a really like weird thing to prioritize early on, but I guess it's because he was slow to back from the top lane and thought, I have to come in with teleport to impact this fight. But he just got absolutely minced because he had no resistances and no damage, which obviously just led to him dying instantaneously. I don't like prioritizing teleport that early unless you're Malphite. The only person that I ever really like seeing teleport picked up as first item is Malphite, because at least on Malphite you can teleport and use your ultimate. But that gave enough pressure for Tribe to just get the first dragon of the game completely uncontested. So not sure on this as a first item, especially as a Darius, because you're not exactly useful Like this would be okay for, let's say, a Kennen or a Malphite or anybody that's got a big impact ultimate that you can just essentially teleport in and use it straight away. Don't like it on a Darius, personally. I would have much preferred to see the gold invested into the Thornmail, and then by the time the dragon spawned, you might have got there with a Thornmail, and it would have been a little bit more tenable to be right in the front line. So this is what I'm actually liking from Na'Vi, right? So we have a lane swap initiated from Tribe. They are clearly lane swapping to then prioritize the Rift Herald because they have this objective. So why would they keep their bot lane on this side of the map? Let's swap our bot lane to the top side so that we can actually then bring as many members over to this this Rift Herald as possible. And Leon on the Pantheon can very easily just Pantheon ult into the fight if he needs to. What I like from Na'Vi is they're saying, okay, right, we're going to keep Garen down here. We're going to keep our bot lane down here. Like, worst comes to worst, we trade Rift Herald for first turret of the game anyway, which is, like, as you may have heard from me numerous times in the past, trading Rift Herald for first turret is absolutely worth it in almost every scenario. So it looked like they were going to get that first turret of the game. They just ended up not having the minion wave to work with, and because Doom was rotating down, and obviously pings were coming through from the Darius rather. Garen is the Darius. They couldn't quite finish off that first turret of the game. You can see Sky has like been desperately clearing. This is essentially a race for first turret of the game at this point, and you can see that Mumu and Juicy are heading back down towards the bot lane with the Rift Herald spawning in just 3 seconds. I would imagine that Tribe think to commit to this, but Mumu and Juicy are just saying first turret of the game, way more important here. Like, we don't care about Rift Herald if we end up getting first turret of the game anyway, because Rift Herald is in a lot of ways a good way to get first turret of the game. So if we're trading for first turret of the game regardless, then do you know what? Whatever. And actually, Tribe are a little bit slow to the punch here. They don't get the Rift Herald started ASAP, and Na'Vi very easily are able to pick up that first Rift Herald. The thing that's interesting to me here is that like Mumu and Juicy just continue rather than potentially roaming towards mid to pressure out mid tier 1. They could have maybe even made it over to this fight if their team were able to sort of buy enough time. But at the end of the day, Mumu and Juicy just overextending a little bit in this scenario. And you can see that Leon sees the engage. He sees the engage potential with the Galio, and obviously Rengar hanging out in the sidelines. And this is what I don't understand from Mumu. He doesn't just back here. Mumu decides to not back him. He continues to push this wave, which is very greedy considering his team has just backed off to mid. And then you see Doom just turns up. It was, to me, felt a little greedy because then Doom just essentially dives in and gets the kill. No reason, I think, for Mumu to stay at that position. Not really much reason to do that. However, obviously Sky here forced to flash away. Ghost doesn't get into the fight either. They end up backing off. So good start for Tribe. Like this right now is a good start for Tribe. This is one of the best starts they've had versus Na'Vi in the entire series. They have effectively said, okay, we don't mind losing first turret for Rift Herald as long as we can use it in an effective place. That was the most Leon play I've ever seen in my life, by the way. He like flashed engaged under their tower and his team wasn't even really in a position to help him. So that's what I call a Leon play. It was definitely the most Leon play that I've ever seen. So yeah, interestingly enough, that was, a good start from Tribe overall, though. They gave away a little bit of gold back to Na'Vi here. Na'Vi keeping it competitive, but we have this next dragon spawning in 8 seconds. Now let's look at the build for Darius. He has now picked up the Thornmail. He's got the Spectre's Cowl. He's starting to be real tanky. We've got a Rod of Ages and a needlessly large rod on the Diana. We're working towards our Triforce, but the Sheen plus Manamune, I think the Mirror Mana has already been completed, so these are some big spikes now for the Ezreal. This is a good time to fight for Na'Vi. You know, I think they're in a really, really strong position. They have, I think the Seraphine ultimate is on cooldown right now, so clearly one of their big teamfight ultimates is gone. But this is a good time for Na'Vi to fight. And look, Garen, just happy to get into the middle of the fight. It's actually Sky doing the majority of the tanking here who goes down. But if you just watch, Garen can kind of step up. He doesn't take much damage at all at this stage in the game. And Mumu now starts to pop off as well. Now Tribe, this is Tribe just standing on a ward. They have no idea this is warded. They're trying to catch someone out on the return. I think they just, I mean, Na'Vi played this really nicely. The flash ult onto Doom catches him out. And you can see Snitch and Leon get caught pretty heavily as well. Ghost just pops in, picks up a double kill. Really tanky, like really, really tanky on this Darius right now, taking next to no damage. And this accelerated the lead just from like a little bit of an awkward play. A huge Diana ultimate, don't get me wrong, but it was a little bit of an awkward play around the dragon because Tribe just they could have committed with the Galio, maybe. They could have committed with the Galio. They could have just straight up committed with the Pantheon, but they backed off and they let Na'Vi force them into a choke point where the Diana was easily able to get a ridiculous ultimate off. And then we look at item spikes. Triforce Muramana finished up for Mumu. He's insanely strong. We've nearly got that Force of Nature finished up for the Darius. Still not many fights where Darius has been truly pushed in terms of sort of tanking at this point in time. So I'm going to keep my eyes on the next fight because obviously there's going to be a Baron spawning relatively soon. We've got Dragon spawning in around 3 minutes time. So there are some sort of potentials for fights breaking out. Let's have a look at the other side though. I think the thing is with Tribe, they get outscaled, right? So this comp, not good scaling. Not that good scaling if your team knows how, like if he pops out and then Vi ults him straight away, not great scaling. Scales okay, scales really well. So this is like scales really well, Lux support. Xayah scales pretty well, and Galio scales pretty well. But these two don't scale at all. You look at Na'Vi, doesn't usually scale, but Tank Darius can scale. Vi scales pretty well. Diana scales pretty well. Ezreal scales really well. Seraphine scales really well. So the scaling is in favor of Na'Vi. So if the game goes longer, it's better for Na'Vi overall. Just because they have the team comp that's going to do well. Brilliant flash engage from Juvie on the Seraphine here. Takes Tribe Snitch down very low. They actually don't convert it into a kill. Interesting to see Doom being the one that's converted into a split pusher here. That's because Rengar takes towers super quickly. And so he manages to pick up a nice little play here. Now he's looking for a flank onto... I would have just gone straight onto Ghost. Obviously not there at the end of the day. Look at Mumu though in the sidelines. No one's touching Mumu. And if you look at Darius, like look at Garen. He's just tanking everybody. Gets a huge amount of health back. Massive value from the health regen from Darius's first ability. Like I want to kind of go back. I don't know if we can go back like 30 seconds in this fight. Is it possible to go back like 30 seconds in this fight? No, it's a little bit. I've gone back too far. Okay, here we go. Let's watch Garen in this fight, right? Garen in the front lines, taking crap tons of damage. Right. Still tanking damage. Tanking Leon right now. Huge amounts of tanks. Massive health regen. That's a huge amount of effective HP that he's just got back there as well. And obviously no one was even remotely trying to touch Mumu. Like Mumu was just on the sidelines doing whatever he wanted because for some reason they were so scared of Darius. A tank Darius, just slapping them with his axe, not really doing any damage. But the thing that you have to worry about with Darius is he always has the option to get a good dunk off. Like that dunk, although it scales with AD, that dunk can still hurt as a full tank Darius. So that's why I like the idea of full tank Darius, because not only can you get a huge amount of effective HP back from the regen on your first ability, but also your dunk's always going to be threatening. You know, that ultimate is always going to remain relatively threatening. So now we're in a pretty sizable gold lead. Like 4K is not a huge amount, but it's a good place for Na'Vi to work from. We have this next dragon spawning in 23 seconds. And the man of the moment here is Mumu. He's got 11,227 gold right now. He's finished up 3 items. This is Ezreal hitting to that late game spike. A good response from Tribe, but Garen is just too tanky. Like he takes a load of damage there, really only puts him down to around 3/4. Has now picked up some more HP as well. And you can see the Ocean Drake has spawned. So another fight for both these teams. Good True Shot Barrage to start things off. For Tribe to win, they need to get a really big Galio taunt. For Tribe to win, they need to get a big Galio taunt. They really need to take out Mumu. If Mumu dies, like they have a good shot. Unfortunately, Tribe know that they can't actually strictly teamfight versus Na'Vi. So they get backed off into their own jungle because they actually can't, you know, without finding the right angle, can't just run headfirst into Na'Vi. There's no real way they can do that. The other way that you want to play this is try and look for a Rengar ult into Galio ult. So Rengar plus Galio is a nice ultimate combination. And you can see Tribe can't really find the angle on this fight. They catch out the Lux. Watch Garen. Garen just on the front lines. Taking almost no damage. You can see he's just like right at the front of the team. And it's nice to have that because Darius remains a threat pretty much at all times. Now, obviously, at this stage in the game, it doesn't matter at this point because Mumu's just so far ahead that he's like literally taking heads. And obviously now Sky picking up the gold as well. He's got a really nice build with the Rod of Ages into Rabadon's Death Cap. So he's going for pure burst damage. He's basically trying to make his ultimate as powerful as possible. He's not bothered about the passive or anything like that. Doom almost takes out Mumu, but alas, not enough. Couldn't go for the steal on the Baron either. And you'll see that Na'Vi pick up the Baron with relative ease. And that's basically a game ender for them. Like, this is a game-ending objective. They've essentially got complete control. Leon, I appreciate what he was trying to do. Had to back off at the end of the day. But I like this build from because I think this build's playing towards the strengths of Diana, by the way. Like, I think Diana's broken part of her kit is her ultimate. So this just makes her ultimate really insane. Like, really, really insane. So you just, you look at the next big ultimate from Sky, he's gonna hit really hard. But Na'Vi are an insane team, by the way. Na'Vi are really insane. They played so well throughout this tournament. They didn't actually lose a game all tournament. I definitely recommend that you go and check them out. I want to analyze their Sona. There was a Sona Janna game that wasn't from Na'Vi. It was from Game Lord that I want to kind of go back and have a look as well. That was a really interesting composition. But this is the one I just want to focus on. I really want to focus on Darius. Now, Deadman's Plate gives him a little more damage. Gives him some engage potential as well by increasing his speed. He's also obviously like just defending in the split push. Like, Rengar's very unlikely able to. Well, he has got the Last Whisper now. Sorry, the Mortal Reminder. So maybe there's an option for Rengar to look for a kill on the Darius. But it's going to be hard nonetheless because Darius just has got so much armor. So the engage comes onto Sky here, but immediately the Darius. I mean, look, Darius. Look how much damage this guy's going to take. Like, just literally sits there absorbing damage on the front line. I love this from Garen and Sky, just knowing that Rengar is trying to flank from this position. They're both just kind of sat there. Again, Garen literally tanking the tower for his team as the team gets the tower for free. And no one could deal any damage to him. And the dunk is always going to remain threatening. So Garen just able to sit there on the front line, tanking the tower as team dives. And you can see now Snitch and Doom get forced out while Na'Vi win the tournament. And that was a really, really good game. I mean, game wasn't purely about the Darius. I just wanted to show you that this Darius tank build is viable. It can tank a lot of damage. And when you get the health regen from your first ability, it clearly has a lot of effective health gain. But just celebrating Na'Vi in general was a really awesome. This is the best team in Europe right now. By every metric, this is the best team in Europe right now. So there's a lot to learn from these guys. And then showing that Diana's still S tier, like Ezreal and Seraphine both really high tier champions as well. It's cool. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown, especially the maths as well. Let me know if you like the math. If you don't, I won't put it in next time. I enjoy doing it though. But nonetheless, enjoy, and I'll see you soon.